My book, my novel, XBook. What started as a simple idea of aliens invading the Earth right after the First World War was whittled into what I present to you in this podcast. I then dissect the meaning of what I wrote over 15 years ago from the perspective of the blue of the walls separates from its vertical prison, flying towards my eyes. To stop the colour piercing into my retinas, I shut my eyes, but the blue moves around, whispering to me. Oh, he's talking again! This is supposed to be a solo podcast, but I have started to be joined by figures from my past relevant to this novel. There's not much I can do, so I've just accepted it now. Anyway, as we prepare to leave the first act, where are we up to so far? Having spent 850 years travelling from one dying planet to Earth, it's William's role to get the Trascons onto Earth. He has given warning of an impending attack. He then stared at a light bulb for a while. Ginger, human fighter pilot, called off his Christmas leave to lead his squadron, has had to convince his squad that the aliens are real. Remember, this is fiction, always fiction. Logic is as logic does. General notes. So I really have no idea what's happened. I listen back as I'm about to post this, and well, the whole podcast has been taken over, and look, I've been so busy recently. I've just been overwhelmed with work, and I don't have the time to re-record all of this. So I'm just going to put it up as is. It's not listenable. You can probably hear in my voice throughout the whole episode just how tired I am. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say what happens next week. Ginger flies a plane and has an encounter with himself. So, if you don't listen to this, that's fine. Thank you. Bye. Today's been a more somber episode as the reality starts hitting in with both characters, both dealing with their pre-gig nerves in different ways. Ginger was stuck in his head as the world goes on around him, and William, which I am in, but I am here outside of it, watching myself, wondering who this person is. That is me. I am trapped in a somewhere that I don't know where. I see myself in a world that I know, but I can't be there. I am here with myself and I can't move away. I have to be there. I can't be here. Despite that, I do attempt to bring in some joy with the party that Ginger cannot involve himself in. It's really nice to see Ginger around other people, especially his peers, as we've seen the last couple of episodes. It brings out his isolation and distance from others. Whereas in the previous Ginger episode, he was struggling to bring others into his knowledge, now he is unable, unwilling to bring himself into the world around him. Apparently, I'm getting good at contrasting pairs of chapters in a way that I'm not sure how long I've been here. All I know is that I am real now. Real. But wasn't I always real? Then why am I real now? And I've been casting my mind back, trying to remember the original reason for this. Well, this book started as a rip-off of Independence Day. So, of course, there was going to be a Bill Pullman moment. It just so happens that Ginger is there to undermine the performance. Well, not really. It seems very much like all the men are in their own world. Ginger just tunes into it as he will. And what awareness of myself do I have right now? I know of my body. It's something that I can't separate myself from. But my body feels distant, as if it's a phantom. It does what I want it to do, but it's not right. I am not imagining my body, but it just feels like it's somewhere. Something that Blake Snyder talks about. And yeah, I'm bringing up Blake Snyder again. We've talked before about the debate period. Ginger's had his little debate with his squadron, but now he is really ramping up his values. He is going full pacifist. Ginger is choosing his values, but he hasn't found a way out of the circle. I feel as if I am living in two different places at the same time. Right now, I am here. But right now, I am there. There is where my squadron are. Here is where the doppelgangers are. I am both in the mess hall and surrounded by blue walls. What we have here is an origin story. Ginger's equivalent, anyway. We've only seen him fully formed in terms of his response to the trauma of the war. And Ginger, like William, is starting to look backwards. But it seems that he can only go so far. Who was he before the war? It's something that we don't know, as Ginger himself doesn't know. But it's another question that's been shoved right in front of us. No one else is aware of me. Everyone is so self-absorbed. I know that I exist. It's all that I've ever known, and that is what matters. But now the mess hall disappears and is being replaced with all sorts in overdoing it with William's anti-involvement in the story. In previous episodes, he's been sat there on the floor looking at a light bulb. Now he's going to bed and just full on sleeping. I clearly had an issue with self-indulgence, what is good for the story, and where to explore outside of pure narrative function to stop things being, and here I am. This isn't my place. In a strange way, the Blue Walls is my place. I just don't know how. But this new world, for it doesn't feel like anything like Earth, this is not a place I should be. It's wrong for me to be where I am right now. William talks about the Godspeed settings. This is a direct reference to Godspeed You Black Emperor, who have just released a new album as I record this. Music was important to the writing of this book. I always had music on in the background. I was all over the place with post-rock and Britpop, a smidge of techno and ambient trance music. But I think it was post-rock, particularly Godspeed and some Mogwai, that put me into the right frame of mind for writing this book. Even now, revisiting this book, I have gone back to that music that I was listening to, perhaps focusing on Godspeed's sibling band, a Silver Mount Zion, who have a more ethereal, less doomy quality about them. Godspeed is more about the upcoming. Is that it? Is that why the Blue Walls is more familiar? Is it the music? I don't recognize the music. I don't recognize any of the instruments. But I understand what I hear as music. I understand it as if it is part of me. It varies in its tone, moving from one slow piece to another aggressive. It's never finished, but always feels complete. Sublime, ecstatic, mournful, pounding, driving, ghostly, drifting. It sounds too pretentious, but I think music is as big an influence as anything else. In many ways, I do feel as if each chapter is like a song in its own right. As if, rather than going for the narrative structure, I was trying to capture the mood of a tune playing in my head, unable to form itself musically, so it came out as XBook. I'm being pulled away from the music and back to this new place. I shouldn't be here. Nothing in my body, nothing in my soul says I should be here. I don't know how, but it's time to retreat. Let's be me for a while. The door to the room is an exit, but it's not the exit that I need. I search around looking for the second chapter. I am moving into strange territory. I've been aware since the beginning that the way I read any word can have impact on you, the listener. That any inflection or emphasis I make may have been different to how you would have read it on the page. Kind of like seeing the movie before the book and how it affects you. But here, I have totally altered William's voice. To me, it makes sense. It's a dream. He can breathe better. The sickly way all the Trascon sound was designed to reflect breathing in 850 years worth of recycled air. But taking away that voice for this dream, was it the right choice? When you've always known yourself to speak one way, is it right that in a dream you can hear yourself differently depending on the circumstances? Does that reflect the whole issue of self-identity and how we see ourselves? Well, perhaps then it's time to move to the psychologist's chair. It's funny because I've kind of swapped their roles. Ginger has become all introspective and backward-looking, and it's William who steps into the dream worlds. But what is perhaps most of note is that our new character, Holly, has really started to make an appearance, and she's got...
Holly! 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 Holly!
And just in case you're wondering, all text was written by me, Daniel's Nemesis, and XBook is purely a work of fiction and is not meant to be based on anyone or any events at all. The music was also by me, Daniel's Nemesis, as was the image that accompanies this podcast. It sucks, doesn't it? But there we go.
Holly, 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 Holly.